The Hasselblad 907X and CFV250C digital back is a modern camera system that is absolutely brilliant in its image quality, color, and construction, bringing the look of film without the limits of film. But we wouldn't suggest owning it unless you fit 3 specific criteria. Why? Let's dive in. This is Beyond the Specs, where we aim to go beyond everything you can read on a website and give you practical knowledge on the pieces of equipment all us filmmakers are looking to buy. And today we don't have film equipment, but a special piece of photography equipment, the Hasselblad 907X and CFV250C medium format digital back. The 907X and CFV250C is more than just a mouthful. It's a digital Hasselblad camera system that is absolutely brilliant to use and that brings joy, speed, and certainty to Hasselblad photographers. So let's set some context. Hasselblad was known for well-constructed cameras, beautiful glass, and waist-level viewfinders. As a maker of analog medium format cameras, Hasselblad created breathtaking images with distinct looks coming from its lenses, and was a true artist camera. Now, back in 1960, the 1600F was released, which was revolutionary at the time because of its modularity, and allowing you to interchange lenses, viewfinders, and most importantly, film backs. This meant that photographers could change their film stock mid-roll, which was revolutionary because you can get multiple different looks for the same subject, and giving something to photographers that you couldn't really get in medium format at the time: options. Now, the F-series cameras eventually became the C-series cameras, which is a design that Hasselblad has used for the last 40 years, used on the moon, and still used today. And the C-series did one important thing, moving the shutter from a focal plane shutter to a leaflet shutter located in the lens. Nowadays, the C-series is called the V-series to differentiate itself from the H-series and the X-series that Hasselblad produces, which isn't confusing at all. But one thing is for certain, the entire system was interchangeable, meaning that the film back from your 500C in 1960 would still work on your 503CW in 2013. And it still astounds me how complex the engineering was inside the Hasselblad cameras that allows for complete modularity. But Hasselblad was originally a watchmaking company, so the inner workings are true to Hasselblad's form. And if you ever go to the moon, there are still 11 Hasselblad camera bodies lying on the surface. The astronauts only took the backs. And that's the context. And at the time of filming, this is the price of the 907X and CFV250C. Knowing Hasselblad, that probably hasn't changed. Getting into the review, the 907X and the CFV250C is a remarkably interesting camera. The 907X is portable, lightweight, and feels very interesting to use in its compact, squarish design. The design does feel delicate, and body, while looking tough, is pretty fragile. So we definitely suggest buying some sort of lens strap or camera bag in case. The body of the 907X is minimalist to the extreme, with the only buttons being a small aperture knob and the shutter release to actually take a picture. All other aspects are taken care of on the digital back, which is one of the first big adjustments to make if you're used to bodies with buttons and knobs. There's an additional hand grip that you can get to this camera if you don't like the ergonomics, and that provides you with the ability to control the shutter, but deprives you of $700. It's great in situations where the touchscreen on the CFV250C isn't the best option for changing settings, such as when you are in cold weather or are irritated at the responsiveness of the touchscreen. But while we can make jokes about the high cost of the hand grip, it is a nice addition to the camera body in the sense that you are also paying for peace of mind, adding one more secure way of holding the camera and transporting it around. Now, the 907X on its own is not entirely impressive as a camera body. There's no viewfinder, unless you purchase one, no real functionality, and is really nothing without the digital back. It's just small and lightweight, which is all we guess you can ask for. The 907X does have autofocus abilities when paired with the XCD lenses and the digital back, but that autofocus leaves a lot to be desired. It's slow, not always accurate, and is not great with any moving objects. We really suggest using manual focus while operating this camera, not only because the experience is better, but also because you're more likely to get better results. The real star of the show is the CFV250C medium format digital back. In terms of feel, it feels like a Hasselblad film back, albeit maybe a bit heavier and a bit more fragile. It's a similar form factor, provides a tethered option on the left side and SD card slots on the other side. The buttons are made of plastic, and the swiveling of the digital back leaves a bit to be desired, feeling more fragile than anything else. Big picture, this camera really is interesting to operate. Like other viewfinders, you're operating this camera by bringing it up to your eye, but even with the swivel screen, I don't find myself taking photos by my waist as much as I would with a waist level viewfinder. That's not to say the screen isn't sharp, but is a bit dim, especially in bright light or outside. The time between photos is pretty drastic if this is the first time using a film camera body, and you are coming from the SLR world, but it is pretty standard to have used Hasselblads in the past. Where the CFV250C really shines is in the images, and honestly, that's what to care about. The CFV250C creates beautiful images. That's all we really can say about it. We can talk about the shadows, the highlights, talk about how there's 14 stops of dynamic range and are really noticeable reds, greens, and blues, but at the end of the day, it's just beautiful. It's hard to state where the beauty comes from. The colors on the CFV250C render in a pleasing way that isn't true to life, but is true to Hasselblad. That means for product commercial work, be careful, because the colors are not true to life. But for all their work, the colors are just pleasing. The shadows are distinct but soft in their transitions to the midtones, and the highlights roll off softly with low contrast, which gives the image that filmic look, although it's not really film. The sensor size is 50 megapixels, making the images you take high quality in resolution and detail, which create wonderful texture. The sensor isn't a true medium format sensor, more of a crop, and that's a bit disappointing, especially when the CFV250C is touted as a medium format digital back. And here's where we need to stop to talk about who this camera is for, because the experience for some is extremely different for others. This camera was made for existing Hasselblad users. It is not made for those that are looking to get into Hasselblad for the first time. And this distinction is important. You will not get joy out of this camera if this is your first Hasselblad camera. The system is slow, it is cumbersome, and it is not as useful of a camera compared to what you could buy for the same price. For roughly the same cost, you can get a large format Fujifilm GFX100S, or go to the S35 range and you can get the Canon EOS R5 that does 8K video as well. Or go towards the Nikon Z9 to use all that great autofocus system and the color of the Nikon systems. Or simply, buy a used Hasselblad and go absolutely nuts on film. For the cost of the digital system, you can buy a used Hasselblad body and like 5 rolls of film. That's the film joke. The joy in this camera comes to those who own other Hasselblads, particularly the V-Series Hasselblads. Remember that removable film back that was revolutionary and revolutionized the world? Well, the digital back fits on all V-Series cameras since 1960, meaning that even on the Hasselblads on the moon are compatible with the CFV250C. And when you combine new tech with old tech, you're not only getting a hipster's dream, you are also getting beautiful images that are unique in their look, but are also fun to take. Take using this camera with a camera body that is a viewfinder. That absolutely changes the game, making the photo taking experience quick, fun, and with the look of film without the limits of film. You can take unlimited photos without the cost or time of getting your photos developed, giving you instant gratification and feedback on your photo. There's no longer the worry if you got your photo or got your shot, because you can actually look and see the image and retake it and retake it and retake it and retake it until you get it right. So what are the 3 criteria you should have to own this camera? Well, 1 is an expendable budget, because the system is costly. 2 is having existing Hasselblad camera bodies. In order to get that full experience of this camera, or if this is your first Hasselblad camera, you have to be willing to scour eBay for hours for the best Hasselblad equipment. And 3rd, you have to love making images and the adventure of film photography. While the 907X and CFV250C is not analog, it's a very analog feel to it. And if that is the vibe you're going for, this camera is the right one for you. The 907X in itself is not a great camera, but the CFV250C is a must-have for the Hasselblad owning artist who finds joy in the tech and feel of old Hasselblad camera bodies. It's the true artist cameras that make beautiful images that aren't made to be perfect in their replication of reality, but perfect for being a better imitation of reality. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Beyond the Specs. Tune in next time for more tech, more talk, more engaging debate about analog versus digital. Like, subscribe, and comment below on what you'd like to see next. Take care, guys. Peace.